I'm Mark Lyons. I was born in Bethesda, Maryland and raised in Gainesville, Florida. I'm a ceramic artist. I've been making pottery and working in clay since 1973. I'm an inmate in the Department of Corrections in the state of Florida. I've been incarcerated for 3 years. I will be released in 9 days and a wake-up. I've been creative all my life. I started making pottery in 1973 when I went away to school in a monastery. I lived in the monastery for 4 years and I made a lot of pots, enough so that I could outthrow all the potters in the universities in the area. They used to take me around in my senior year and make lots of pots with these graduates and everything. I had no idea what I did with my pottery. Everybody told me I was good. Okay, I'm good. So I loved it. I love pottery. I've been making pottery since 1973. It's my life. I think about it all the time. I'm extremely creative in the fine arts, especially ceramics. After '73, I came back to Gainesville from Minnesota and made pots here at Santa Fe Community College for about 5 years. I got a major in ceramic arts, in fine arts, an A in fine arts, but I also specialized in construction because I love architecture. They say that I'm very good at making pots on the wheel, so that's what I do. I'm very good at it. I mean, I could throw a pot with my hands, you know. I mean, I could go through the whole pottery thing in 30 seconds. I just graduated from Santa Fe Community College with my AA degree in fine arts and architecture. I love architecture. And clay applies to architecture really well, so I went to a school called Alfred University in 1984 and got a Bachelor's of Fine Arts at Alfred University. It's probably the finest school I've ever been to, and I've been to a lot of schools. But I love Alfred University. It's a very diverse program, and it allowed me to be creative. And I made a lot of pottery there. After that, I graduated and started a production pottery for Busch Gardens in Williamsburg, Virginia. I made pots there, about 12,000 in 4 months for 4 years. I had 5 potters working for me and 8 clerks. I know the business side of it. It's okay, but the creative side is where I was at, and I learned that I was a teacher more than a production potter. I think too fast for doing production pottery, and I love teaching people, and clay is my medium for that. After I worked there for about 4 years, 3.5 years, I applied for different programs around the country and decided to go to Rochester Institute of Technology. Okay, school. But I made pots there. I made 35 teapots a day on the average. At the end of that, I decided to make sculpture because I've been making pottery since '73 and I needed to be creative, and the pottery was not where it's at. I don't like burnout. I like to be creative. I always make new things. I've never made the same thing over and over again. And so consequently, I made water fountains, which were evolving water fountains. My master's thesis was satirical metaphors on American idealisms. Basically, yeah, I poke fun at the way Americans are raised. You know, they stop there. Okay. So I graduated from there in 1989, but I realized I was graduating from there, so I was planning ahead. And since high school, I always wanted to teach. I always loved being around people, and I found that my senior year in high school, they asked me what I was going to do when I grew up. I think I'm going to grow up sometime, but I'm not sure when. But I told them I was going to probably get married, have children, have a gallery, teach, and make pottery. Well, I'm pretty self-actualized. I started a school in 1990. I started a school in 1990, and that school was a accumulation, a culmination of all the activities that I'd done in pottery since 1973. And my dad was a psychiatrist, and my mother was a teacher, and I tried to bring all these things into the school, and Genesee Pottery was a place that I could do exactly what I dreamed about doing. It was nothing when I first started. Now it's 20 years old. They have lots of people there, 25 artists in residence. I've got visiting artists from around the world that go there. the whole thing is about each individual's artist's expression. I firmly believe, and I will always believe this, that each individual has a creative side, and we do not tap that in education. We simply don't do it. I mean, we can't even get people to read right, much less be creative. And since then, since 1990, I started the school. After that, I went back and got my master's in education, and my wife divorced me, so I have 4 credits away from that. But at any rate, I've been making pottery around the country, kind of trying to stay in clay. I love clay, and I always want to make clay pots. But I made pottery in Colorado for a few years, and I didn't like it. I didn't like struggling at 11,000 feet trying to make pottery. It's really hard to fire a kiln at that height. They said that I was the highest potter in the country at that point. So, but at any rate, after that I moved back to Gainesville, Florida. I made pottery at a place called the Arts and Crafts Center at University of Florida. It's a community little place, but they allowed me to make my pots. And I made pots there. And should I tell them what happened? Okay. In 2004, I ride mountain bikes hard. I ride them a lot. And I broke my legs in 2004. And my family's extremely dysfunctional, which I think adds to my creativity, thank you. And I compartmentalize very well. And they weren't helping me. And it wasn't their responsibility to help me, to be honest with you. It was my responsibility. But I couldn't get on my feet, literally. And I had to make a decision. I'm an addict. And thank God for my addiction, because it's really pushed me hard. And I'm grateful for it, because it's allowed me things that I would never have done in my life other than without the addiction. I'm taking my addiction positively, not negatively. And that's something that people need to realize. My creativity is not based on my addiction. My addiction is manifested in my creativity. I give people 150%. I don't care. I give it to them and I love it. That's part of the positive side of my addiction. Creativity is what got me through prison. I survived solely because I was creative. If I wasn't creative, I probably would have lost it, but I didn't. I'm an optimist. And I thought a lot about what I was going to do when I got out. You know, it's not going to be Mein Kampf or anything like Hitler did, but it's certainly going to be something for my community. I made an assessment about what was important in my life, and one of them was I had to serve my community in some way, and I had to make sure that I was being creative in the process. People do not understand how powerful Department of Corrections are in our society. They just don't understand it. I lived in this hell for 3 years, and it was nothing but deception. It was a surreal painting. It was Dali, like you wouldn't believe. It was so uncontrolled that the animal instinct in every one of those people was unbelievable. It was like inhumane. It was a dog kennel of all dogs that are going to be killed. It was horrible. It was, nothing was real. And I lived this fantasy in my own world. I read over 1,000 books in 3 years. I read, and it was the only escape I had. It was like, you have no idea what it's like in there. And now I'll be free in 9 days, and I'll wake up, and I can't wait to come. I can't wait. It was so hard to be creative and to go into that uneducated, deprived environment. Was like the best thing that could have happened to me, because it realized just how far out I was creatively. It allowed me to assess all the things I've made in my life and all the people I'd met in my life throughout my artist life. And I say artist life because I'm a builder too. I built houses for a while. So in these environments, I'm looking at everything in my life and how it assimilated into this prison experience. And I think that it was a culmination of negative things that allowed me to really assess what's really beautiful in my life. And I want to make art again so bad. So when I get out, I'm going to hook up with a buddy of mine and we're going to make pots together. That's what we're going to do. I can't believe this is on camera. At any rate, that's my goal, is to make pottery again. And I don't want to go on with this. This was supposed to be fun.
Do you want me to stop?
No. I did not expect this emotion to be here, but I have 9 days left and I'll be free.
And this is freeing, isn't it?
And I'm letting go. Thank you. You guys got any tissue? But at any rate,
No, the toilet
I want
bowl is
to be able to create and share with people their own creativity. I want them to be allowed to express themselves. I think that if people would express themselves more freely through the arts, there wouldn't be as much violence. They could smash the clay or throw the clay against the wall instead of somebody's head. The violence I've seen is unbelievable. Inner city schools, I taught at an inner city school in Rochester, New York for a couple of years while I was trying to get my master's. And these kids, I allowed them 5 minutes, 10 minutes sleep in my wait through my class to make something. And the violence is unbelievable. And the creativity allows outlets. You know, it allows people things that they don't get reading or writing or doing arithmetic. Mortimer Adler's my hero. He's a philosopher, modern day philosopher, who wrote about the concept of education and the creativity of problem solving. It's like creativity allows people to problem solve. It allows people to assess a situation, think about it, and solve the problem. Now, they can solve it with violence. They can learn how to communicate and express it that way. They can go to an outlet, art, and they can express it through the art, or they can bottle it up and it'll come out sideways some other day. I mean, those are avenues. There are a few of them. There's a lot more of them. But people learn and think 7 different ways. And I think it was Cummings, or I forgot the other person's name, but they realized that people think and learn and see life from their point of view, which could be by writing, it could be by reading, it could be by drawing, it could be by listening, it could be by me regurgitating back to you what you said so that I can assimilate it and make sense out of it. I mean, it's that simple. But in schools, they don't do this. They throw crap at the students and then they walk out at the end of the day with their check. And they're not allowing the students, they're not appreciating the students don't have any moral virtues or values anymore. They don't have parents 24/7 anymore. They've got children of their own at 14 and 15. They don't have a husband and they don't have a wife and they don't have a balance that they had 50 years ago. In the 50s, Mortimer Adler wrote a paper in 1963 called the Pedia Project. Look it up, it's great. He assessed the European education compared to the Western education, and he told them, if you don't take a look, America's going to be in a bad way, and it's way bad now. And, you know, I mean, I know you guys in Canada are going to see this, so I consider America North America. It's South America is clueless, but North America is Canada too. And education is like, to me, everything. It's freedom. It's totally freedom. If a child was educated in their early years, or between 1 and 5 for the moral issues, and then from 5 to about 9 for interaction, the rest of their life would be easy. They would be productive human beings committed to the community. They would be. It would be ingrained in their head. I believe in discipline too, and that's another reason why I made it through prison. At St. John's in the Abbey, St. Benedict believed in discipline as a form of focus, like kneeling. Like, you don't even know how many times the priest forgot me and left me kneeling for 24 hours. Oh yeah, I've done that quite a few times. But at any rate, the monastery was good for me because I'm disciplined, I'm focused, and when I make a commitment to something, I'm not going to waver from it. So I'm going to start another school, just like I did the pottery. Yeah. Now that I'm free, I'm going to start a school that encompasses a lot of different elements in it. The school I started before was a community-based art education program. It was a non-profit. It was supported by the community. It basically was a place where the neighborhood people could come to and make pottery. But what happened was, and I didn't realize this, that my background since '73 was so intense that I ended up attracting people from around the world, like Taiwan and England and France, and people from around the United States would want to go there as artists in residence, and they advertise for artists in residence in magazines and things like that. But because of my understanding of the ceramics environment, I'm kind of like a brat that way. I like a lot of equipment because in order to create, you have to have all the elements, materials for a medium to really create, and not have barriers like, oh, I can't do this because I don't have a spray booth, or I can't do this because I don't have a cone 10 kiln.
Again?
I can't do this because I don't have cone 04 glazes and slips and oxides. You have to have it all so that each person can fit their personality to the clay. Like one person's a porcelain kind of personality, and one person's a stoneware. I'm a stoneware guy. One person's an earthenware kind of guy, you know. And it's like everybody's personality, they come into my program, right? And I look at them and I'm like, what are we going to have here? You know, it's like a cook in a kitchen, you know. It's like, what can I do with this person's creativity? That's how I feel. When I teach somebody, I look at them, I'm like, my first assignment is that I have everybody get a pen and a piece of paper out, and I say, okay, I'm going to say a word, and I'm going to give you 3 seconds to draw that image. That's all you get is 3 seconds. And at the end of the 3 seconds, I know that you procrastinate. I know that you are passive aggressive. I know that there are certain things about you that you are so afraid of that you can't scribble this image down. So I'm going to work on that first. I'm going to get you to express yourself and not be afraid to express yourself, and we'll go from there. But other people will write this image down, and then I know I can get them on fast. They won't hesitate. They're going to jump in and get dirty right away, which is cool, because that's the way it should be. You should never be afraid to be creative, and that's how I approach teaching. The word is bowl. Okay, that's it. Time's up. Let me see your papers. That's what I do to my students the first class. It freaks them out. They're like, what's this guy doing? And then what I do is I have everybody put their drawing and their bowl out, and I look at them and I'm like, okay, we're going to critique each person's piece. This is my first assignment, actually. It's a very good one because it really makes them assess who they are as an individual. And your personal aesthetic, you got to look up aesthetic. Your personal aesthetic is everything about your creativity. It's what you bring to the table from your subconscious that makes a piece tight or loose or free of, you know, personal statements, or you're hiding something. It always shows up in your work. Forget it, man. When you go to be creative and truly express yourself, it all comes out in your work. Trust me. At any rate, so we assess the work. We look at each other. Oh, that person was raised with English pottery. That one's a Japanese background. Somebody was giving them rice bowls to eat out of all their childhood. That person over there had a wide flange bowl, so it's English for sure in history. So I'm giving a history lesson to these kids at the same time. Kids are all adults, most of them. I'm giving them a history lesson. I'm giving them a personal understanding about who they are as an individual. I'm giving them their first assignment because they have to make that bowl. That's their first class, is to make the bowl that they drew on a piece of paper. And that's their goal, which gives them something to think about when they're driving down the road, or, you know, they get lost. And that's the beautiful part about creativity, is it doesn't stop just because you're doing something else. You doodle on the phone, and those doodles are the makings of a creative outlet that people don't understand. We all have it, but we don't know it's there because no one said anything to us about it. Those of us who are in the arts, they know. They understand that it all matters. My addiction matters. My creativity matters. The fact that my wife sold my whole studio and all my 15 years of drawing books matters. Everything counts, and I want it all to count. And so in this school, I want to bring in an artist in residency program. The classes are the classes. I should talk about that. I started my classes, and I taught all my classes the first semester. I had 3 or 4 in each class. I taught a morning class, an afternoon class, and a night class. And there's 3 or 4 in there, but guess what? It got crowded. It got really crowded, so much so that I hired on artists or potters that were actively engaged in the pottery professionally, and they taught a class each. One guy's like, why don't you have me teach these 2 or 3 classes? I'm like, I don't want that. So the school will have many facets. One of them will be an artist in residency program where I'll have prisoners come in who are on paper for 2 years, and I have found that prisoners who aren't on paper are off the chain right off the bat. But people who are on paper are more hesitant. Paper is parole, or they have a probation officer they have to answer to once a month. I want those people controlled because they have never had control in their life. They don't know what discipline is. They are clueless to that avenue. So the developmental educational aspect of their experience is discipline. They have to be there every day. They have to live it and breathe it. And eventually they will be conditioned to only think about what they're going to do with their work next. 3 years. Box. The prisoner's creativity will develop over those 2 years, and it will give them an avenue to survive on. They're going to learn how to problem solve with their creativity through the medium that they choose. Some people are going to be glass blowers or weavers or whatever. But the point is that they're going to actually have something that they're going to earn. People have to earn what they have. They can't appreciate it. They don't have any clue. It's like learning a whole new language. They can't speak the language until they earn the language, well, so their creativity is only an avenue that will stop them from repeating their past history has not worked. It's like an addict. If you do something 3 times in a row and it doesn't work, it means you're insane. But the problem with that is that the prisoners don't have anything to go to or any avenues to take them away from the elements that they grew up with. There are 3 generations of drug addiction and selling and shit, and they've got to get away from that, and this is an avenue that will lead them into a better way of life and a better way of living, and it'll allow them to not have an excuse of my parents did it and my grandparents did it. It will allow them to say, I'm going to change that, and these people, these teachers and these artists and all this stuff around me is going to allow me to go in a positive place and go sell my artwork and show the public that I am of value and be able to help other people. And the tradition that's happened in my school is that the older people that were there started training the newer people so that the newer people could understand, yes, this is a really good way to go. And they can kind of get hazed in to their own individuality and their own independence, because most prisoners are excellent businessmen. They already have it. They've been trained to con people. They could sell ashes out of an ashtray to you if they really wanted to, but they don't have any positive creative outlet to use all those experiences they've had in their past and to take those things and put them into a medium that allows them all the facets that they've had in their childhood. Like African Americans, they need to understand their history and bring it into their work so they can say, you know, my family came from here, and this is why I make work like this with all these, you know, African things. Like my family's from the Cameroons, and therefore I do grass masks, and they get an element of understanding about themselves as individuals. And once a person becomes a little bit more self-actualized in their understanding, that's when they can really start being creative. And I don't expect them to be creative, you know, truly artists or expressive right away. But I want them to understand themselves as individuals, and a way to do that is to use a medium and to give them a medium to express themselves in. And once that happens, then they're on their own. Some kind of wrap-up statement. I got it. You ready, girl? Is it on? Trickery. Okay, so I'm starting the second half of my life. How do I assimilate all the things that I've experienced in my life in a way that allows me to be creative and allows me to share my enjoyment and what I've experienced in my life? And it may sound selfish, but it really isn't. And give that expression to other people so that they can carry it in their own way. And how can I be creative? The only way I know how to do this is because I can take from so many different elements in life and put them together, and they work. I did it in the school before, and that's what I'm going to do for the next 40, 50 years. I figure my family, I'll be alive until 90 or so. And, you know, Mortimer Adler wrote 2 autobiographies. This is the first time this has ever happened to me. Somebody sitting here taking the time to listen to my garbage. But at any rate, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make this program work. And, you know, I hope that a lot of people will be willing to get involved because it needs to be done. And all they're doing is assimilating more prisoners. The government is contriving excuses to make money off of the taxpayers' dollars. And I'm not going to get into the political side of it, but we have to stop that, and we have to create schools where prisoners, especially addicts, because I'm an addict and I'm compassionate towards the addict, where the addict can learn about their childhood and they can learn about their own expression and they can not be afraid and they can come out of themselves enough to realize that life is a bigger place than just them and their own hardships. I mean, there's got to be a way that this school can interact with all the states in this country and other countries if it has to be. But right now, I'm only going to concentrate on this one little school. And you know, they say a child says, "I'm going to save the world," and an adult says, "I'm just going to try and save one person." And if I can have a positive impact on one person's life with my creativity, I've done what I need to do. And that sums it up. Why are you doing this to me? You are torturing me. You know, to be emotional is like another element that nobody ever has. If the people would allow themselves to have their emotions, this world would be so expressive. A lot of people would be dead, but they'd be expressive. So that's it. Thank you.